My name is Rena, and this experience happened to me about 2 years ago in a small house I occupied on the outskirts of Manado. I worked as a nurse, often on the night shift, which frequently meant I returned home in the early hours of the morning. At that time, my husband, Andy, was out of town on official duty, leaving me completely alone in the house. The silence and darkness of the night became my constant companions whenever I came home. That particular night, it was raining heavily, drenching the streets in the foliage around my house. The clock on my car's dashboard showed 2:15 a.m. when I parked in front of the rusty iron gate. A sense of relief washed over me, knowing that the next day was my day off and I could finally get some much-needed rest. With an umbrella in hand, I walked through the puddles towards the front door. As I inserted the key into the lock, I immediately felt something amiss. The key slid in too easily, as if the door wasn't fully locked or perhaps even slightly ajar. This was highly unusual, as Andy was a meticulously careful person. He always made sure to double lock the door before leaving. A wave of unease began to creep into my mind. I pushed the door open gently, and a long creaking sound pierced the solemn night, filled only by the relentless drumming of the rain. The living room was pitch black. A damp smell, mixed with the earthy scent of wet soil from outside, wafted into the house. I fumbled for the light switch on the wall, pressing it repeatedly, but the light wouldn't come on. A power outage? Yet the lights in the neighbor's house were still brightly lit. I pulled out my phone from my bag, switched on the flashlight, and shone its beam around the room. At first glance, everything appeared normal. The sofa was in its place, the dining table neatly arranged, but something felt wrong. The air in the room was significantly colder than usual, as if the air conditioning was running full blast, despite all units being turned off. I closed the front door, locking it hastily, and tried to compose myself. Perhaps Andy had forgotten to lock it, or a strong gust of wind earlier had slightly dislodged the door's mechanism. I walked towards the kitchen to get a glass of water, my phone's flashlight swaying in my hand, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The ceramic floor felt slippery from the raindrops dripping from my folded umbrella. Suddenly, from upstairs, specifically from the direction of our bedroom, I heard a sound. Tap. Tap, tap. Soft footsteps, as if someone was walking carefully on a carpeted wooden floor. My heart immediately began to pound. I knew for certain there was no one else in the house. Not even the neighbor's cat would venture in at this hour. I held my breath, standing motionless in the kitchen. The footsteps paused for a moment, then resumed, this time sounding closer, slowly descending the stairs. Each tap seemed deliberate, as if the owner was trying hard not to make too much noise. I switched off my phone's flashlight, opting for total darkness now, accompanied only by the drumming of rain on the roof, which intensified the ominous atmosphere. I whispered to myself, it must be my imagination, but my hand clutching the phone trembled violently. Then a long, heavy sigh followed, like someone breathing laboriously after a prolonged run, or someone lurking just behind a door. The sound came from the corridor near the stairs, incredibly close, as if someone was standing at the edge of the living room, peeking at me from behind the wall. I switched on my phone's flashlight again, shining it towards the staircase. The light wavered violently, but I managed to glimpse a faint shadow on the top step, like the silhouette of a tall, slender figure, but blurry and indistinct. A wave of dread washed over me. I backed away slowly into the kitchen, opened a drawer, and grabbed a kitchen knife, just for self-defense. The sigh grew closer, now mixed with a rustling sound, like fabric rubbing against the floor. I tried to call Andy, but the phone signal was terrible due to the heavy rain. Only a busy tone reached my ear. In a panic, I backed towards the back door, but my foot caught on a rug. I stumbled, the phone flew from my grasp, and the flashlight went out. In that complete darkness, the footsteps stopped right in front of me. I felt a hot breath on my neck, not a draft, but a living breath carrying a putrid, fishy smell like decaying fish from the morning market. As I fumbled for my phone and managed to turn the flashlight back on, those eyes appeared. a pair of glowing red eyes in the darkness, large and perfectly round, with no white or pupil, just a pure, intense red light. They were not human eyes, nor animal eyes. They were something utterly alien and terrifying. Its body was invisible, only those eyes floated in the darkness, blinking slowly. I backed away, but a small whisper came right into my left ear, an incredibly close and chilling sound. "Welcome home, Rena. You're late." I don't remember how I managed to run out of the house that night. Soaked to the bone by the rain, I sprinted as fast as I could towards my neighbor's house, screaming for help. The police arrived and investigated, but found no signs of forced entry, and the door was securely locked. Andy insisted he had double-locked it before leaving for his trip. Since that incident, I have never dared to return home alone. Every rainy night, I can still hear that sigh in my dreams. We eventually sold the house, but the new owners also claimed to experience similar phenomena. I don't know what it was, but I am certain it was not just my imagination.
My name is Bhima. This is the story of a cheap rental house that ended up costing us far more than we could have imagined. The incident occurred about 2 years ago in a small rental house on the outskirts of Jakarta, not far from the border of Tangerang. My wife, Sari, and I were overjoyed at the time. Sari was pregnant with our first child, and we were eagerly searching for a more affordable place to live. The neighbors welcomed us warmly, but there was one odd thing. Every time we mentioned the address of our new rental, they always gave us strange looks, as if there was a hint of pity or concern in their eyes. Our first week in the new rental went smoothly. We were busy arranging furniture, cleaning every corner of the house, and envisioning a bright future with our little one. Happiness felt so tangible. However, on the third night, when the clock struck 3 a.m., I woke up. A faint sobbing sound came from the direction of the bathroom. The sound was so soft, like a woman crying quietly, trying to stifle her sobs so as not to be heard. I tried to wake Sari, who was sleeping soundly beside me. She heard nothing at all and simply assumed I was having a nightmare. I got out of bed and checked the bathroom, but found no one there. Only the faucet was dripping slowly, its sound now echoing loudly in the silence of the night. I tried to convince myself that it was just the effect of stress from moving or exhaustion. But the sobbing continued every night. At exactly 3 a.m., the sound would wake me up. Gradually, it was no longer faint, but became clearer, as if the crier was getting closer. Sari began to worry, suggesting it might be a sad neighbor. However, I knew it wasn't from the neighbors. The sound came from inside our own house. I started feeling a piercing chill every time I approached the bathroom at night. The climax happened one night, about 2 weeks after we moved in. As usual, I woke up at 3:15 a.m. to the sobbing, which this time sounded very clear and sorrowful. I got out of bed and saw the bathroom door slightly ajar. From the gap, a dim light emanated from the small bulb inside. I pushed the door open slowly, and what I saw made my blood run cold. Sari was sitting on the floor, her back to me, facing the large mirror mounted on the wall. She was combing her long, flowing hair with monotonous movements, all while sobbing uncontrollably. "Darling, why are you here? What's wrong?" I asked, worried. I approached and gently touched her shoulder. Her combing motion suddenly stopped. She sat rigidly, like a statue. Slowly, she lifted her head, staring at her reflection in the mirror. In the mirror's reflection, I saw Sari's face, but it wasn't my wife's face. The face was deathly pale, her eyes sunken with deep black circles, and her lips bluish. A wide, terrifying smile spread across that face, revealing a row of long, sharp teeth like fangs. Her hair, which had been black and neatly arranged, now looked tangled, dirty, and clumped with dry soil. "She's not sorry, Moss," the voice whispered from the mirror's reflection, not from my wife sitting in front of me. The voice was hoarse and deep, sending shivers down my spine. I recoiled several steps, my body trembling violently. I stared at Sari sitting in front of me, and now she turned to look at me as well. Her face was identical to what I saw in the mirror, horrifying, filled with an undescribable terror. I screamed, turned around, and ran out of the room. I heard a maniacal, shrill laughter following me behind. That very morning, with the remnants of courage I had left, I took Sari out of that cursed house. We sought medical and spiritual help. The doctor diagnosed Sari with severe stress after the move, but her mental condition did not improve. Later, I dug into the history of the house. The neighbors who had given us those strange looks finally told us everything. The previous owner, a middle-aged man, had committed suicide in the house after his wife went mad and died mysteriously. Legend has it there was a curse that caused every woman who became a resident of the house to suffer the same fate. We never returned to that rental. Sari eventually recovered fully after intensive treatment and prayers from a religious leader, but to this day she is still terrified of mirrors. This story taught me that sometimes the low price of a home can be paid dearly with something priceless: sanity.
Name is Aldi, and I am an urban explorer who often creates video content for YouTube. This terrifying experience happened to me about 2 months ago in a large, long-abandoned house on the outskirts of Bandung, specifically in the Cianjur area, known for its many mystical tales. I have always been fascinated by old, dilapidated buildings, especially those with dark histories, because I believe every place holds stories that can inspire engaging content. However, that night, my curiosity led me to something far more sinister than I could have imagined. Just as dusk was beginning to fall, so that the lighting would still be sufficient for recording, the house was a grand colonial Dutch-style building, decades old, abandoned by its owners around 20 years ago following a tragic incident that became local gossip. The main iron gate was severely rusted, creaking loudly as I pushed it open to make way. The front yard was overgrown with tall weeds, and large trees around it cast long shadows that danced as the sun set. I carried a GoPro camera mounted on my helmet, a handheld flashlight, and a backup phone. Before entering, I recorded a short introduction. Hello friends, today we're exploring a haunted house in Cianjur. They say a little girl went missing here in the 90s. Follow my adventure. As I entered the house through the front door, which was already weathered and rotten, the air immediately felt stuffy and heavy, like inhaling dust accumulated over years. The wooden floor in the living room creaked loudly with every step I took, the sound breaking the total silence. I turned on the camera and began recording in detail. Cracked walls with peeling paint, old furniture covered in dusty white sheets, and broken windows that allowed the evening breeze to enter with a chilling gust. I moved to the kitchen, where an old stove and cracked dishes were still neatly arranged, as if the owners had just stepped out briefly. Everything seemed normal, though the atmosphere grew increasingly gloomy as the sunlight faded. From the kitchen, I proceeded to the dining room, where a long table with wooden chairs remained intact, though moss had formed in the corners. I felt a bit uneasy, but I dismissed it as the effect of the encroaching darkness. As I passed through a dark corridor leading to the back rooms, a faint sound suddenly emerged. It was like a child's lullaby, soft and gentle, similar to the Nina Bobo songs mothers sing in the village. The sound came from afar, as if someone was singing in another room. I immediately stopped recording, turning off the camera to listen more clearly. The lullaby paused for a moment, and I chuckled to myself, thinking it was just the wind blowing through the wall cracks or my overactive imagination. But my heart began to race. The corridor was long and narrow, with damp walls and a musty smell that grew stronger. When I reached the master bedroom, a piercing cold suddenly hit my bones, as if there was an unnatural cold air circulation. In the middle of the room stood an old bed with a collapsed mattress, and the bed creaked softly on its own, as if bearing an invisible weight. I pointed the camera around, trying to capture details for the video. As the camera's beam fell on the wooden wardrobe with its half-open door, the lullaby resumed, this time clearer and closer, as if sung right behind me. I froze for a moment, my breath caught in my throat. The lullaby stopped again, but it was replaced by a small whisper.
a little girl's voice that was soft yet chilling. "I can see you." The voice sounded so close, as if it came from my ear itself, with an innocent tone but laced with hidden menace. My heart pounded fiercely, and without thinking twice, I turned and ran out of the room. My feet hurried across the creaking wooden floor, and I left the GoPro camera behind me in my panic, too frantic to retrieve it. I burst through the corridor, past the living room, and out the front door, gasping for air in the now pitch-black yard. That night, after arriving safely at my own home, I only then remembered the camera I had left behind. The next day, with the help of a brave friend, I returned to the house to retrieve it. Fortunately, the camera was still intact on the bedroom floor. When I reviewed the footage on my laptop, what I saw made my blood freeze. For nearly the entire video, nothing was unusual, just normal recordings of my exploration. However, in the final seconds, right when the whisper occurred, a small shadow appeared behind me on the screen. It was the figure of a little girl with long black hair, her face deathly pale with large, empty eyes, standing right behind my back as if watching my every move. The shadow wasn't visible when I was there, but the camera caught it clearly, like a ghost that only appears in recordings. After the incident, I delved deeper into the house's history. Local residents told me that the house was once occupied by a family who mysteriously lost their young daughter in the 1990s. The child vanished without a trace, and since then, many people have heard lullabies or whispers in the house, especially in the late afternoon to evening. I immediately deleted my entire YouTube channel, not wanting anyone to see that footage. Yet to this day, every time I hear a Nina Bobo song or find myself in a quiet place, that whisper still echoes in my mind. I never explore haunted places alone again. And the greatest lesson I've learned is that sometimes what is unseen is the most real.